This is my ENME 351 final project. I ask that you might have a little mercy on me. I had this working. I was doing testing beforehand, right before I hit record, and I went in to get a new battery for my camera, and my servo either burnt out or stripped a gear or something because it makes noise but no longer moves, and I have a couple hours to film, so unfortunately I think there's nothing I can do different. But basically my project, the gist of this is I repaired this with my father, this walk-behind weed eater, and during that we actually broke the throttle cable. So I was going to electronically control this to start, while this is starting, to help assist you by starting it by holding the throttle open, and then while it's warming up, keep the throttle at half throttle, and then once it's warm, allow the user to control the throttle with a potentiometer, and then closing the throttle when a button is pressed to shut the machine off. Here's a close-in shot of my thermistor. So as you can see, I have here a thermistor secured. This is into a female wire that I had from ENME 100, and it is set basically to be up close to the head, so it can catch some of this radiant heat coming off the top of the engine without catching the extreme heat coming off the exhaust, which might melt the wire or the thermistor. So that gives me a good idea of when the engine's warm, and I can configure that differently when the engine's running, which is obviously much hotter than I could demonstrate by just warming it up with my fingers. Here I'll demonstrate my processing component. Let me reset my Arduino. We see we're ready to start the engine. The throttle would be held all the way open at 100%. Then we are ready for warming after that is completed. So that is where the temperature is read out via this thermistor here. It's being read in by the Arduino. The warming light is on. So we see that the throttle is held at 50% to allow the engine to warm up. I set the threshold so that I could demonstrate this by hand at only 40 or so degrees. So when I warm up this thermistor with my hands, the warming light goes out and allows you to manually control the throttle, anything from 0 to 100, and it'll show you the angle of the servo depending on the throttle input. So once you would run a run at a higher throttle while operating, but once you are finished, you would come over and press the shut-off button, which would then move the servo to 180 degrees, which is a completely closed throttle, and that would shut the engine off. This would all be, I would now demonstrate this if my servo worked, but since it broke right before submission or right before filming, there's sadly nothing I can show you with that. But you could take my word that I was double checking that everything functioned properly right before I went in to get a camera battery, and it quit working while I was gone.